Hi, Charlie.
Is that an Obama shirt?
Yeah.
Okay. The
So
true president.
I'm going to read off my phone because I wasn't really expecting to ask a question.
Okay.
I completed my degree in economics last semester, and I'm currently wrapping up my data science minor. I was really with you about the fact that the material condition of a young adult now is much worse than that of a student 20 years ago. You're making a lot of good points about the state of the society through an economic lens.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we disagree on the reason for why we've gotten to this point. I feel that the problems we face today are rather a result of a shift in the American economic culture during the Reagan era, when he promoted austerity and Reaganism economics. Extreme wealth inequality isn't a new concept. It's something that's been on trend for the past half century. Don't you feel like the transfer of wealth you described earlier is a result of monetary policy enacted by politicians on both sides that cuts spending for social services and keeps the effective tax rate for the 1% low?
So you almost had me there. Monetary policy, yes. Cheap money benefits rich people. It does, and it disincentivizes saving. You also said, what was the other part? You said the slashing social welfare benefits. Right, yeah, you're not going to get me at that. I do not believe that a heavy burden of social welfare is good for the human condition. I don't think it materially has evidence to actually show people that elevate. You know, kind of the one-liner that I think we use a lot is we want a safety net, not a hammock, right? We don't want to get people addicted to government assistance. Unfortunately, there's like 40 to 50 million Americans that are just perpetually on government assistance. But something I think you and I could actually agree on is a proper diagnosis of the Reagan era. I think Reagan's a mixed bag. I'm not someone who just defends him at all costs. I think he was really good in the Soviet Union, generally good on anti-socialism and communism, but he also ushered in a lot of other things, such as incredibly radical abortion policy here in California. But there was an agreement post-Reagan and kind of George H.W. Bush, which was kind of part of his regime, that I think you and I could agree on, which is that we really want to try to internationalize the American economy. And there was a betrayal of the American worker, allowing China into the World Trade Organization in the late 90s, right? The repealing of Glass-Steagall, which I'm against, just so we're clear, that I think that was actually good to keep commercial and investment banking separate. I think it created a massive moral hazard. The lowering of interest rates unnecessarily throughout the 90s and early 2000s, which I think were all things that factored in to some of these economic conditions that you talk about. But I would be careful just kind of blaming only, that's not true, you did say both parties, but it's not just, it was continued by Clinton a lot in the 90s as well. But the question is, what do we want? And this is something I can actually find common cause with a lot of people on the left, is I look at middle-class wages, how easy to have children, can you flourish, and how many new businesses are we starting, right? And I think under Donald Trump, which is something you'll definitely disagree with, those things actually were improving dramatically. It was a blue-collar boom. Middle-class wages were going up more than anyone realized. In fact, the wage growth for middle-class workers and blue-collar workers far outpaced wage growth for the 1% at the top ladder of the economy. Now, was it perfect? Of course it wasn't. I would have liked to see even harsher trade policies against China to actually prioritize our own industry and our own manufacturing. The last thing I'll say is this. I think NAFTA was a disaster. You may disagree or not agree. The left can't really make up their mind on this. They used to hate NAFTA. Now they love NAFTA. I think that the kind of bargain that was sold to us, which is we are going to send all of our labor through a massive arbitrage, close down our factories, send it to Wuhan, China, and get a bunch of plastic in return, was a bad deal for America. And that did play in to a lot of the economic and income inequality we're seeing right now. So I don't think we're that far off, to be perfectly honest. I would just I would push back a little bit on some of the critique of supply side and market-based policy, which I think is generally a good thing for society and does have some benefits. So.